Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. The data pad listed injuries the way a butcher's ledger lists weight. Hyperextended elbow, 3 fractured ribs, a jaw wired shut. 6 weeks minimum before the Sarian could walk without support. Kellith had counted the words twice before she believed them, and still she didn't believe them, because the creature who caused all three sat 2 meters away with a bandage the size of a coin on her cheek, sipping something orange through a straw like she was waiting for a shuttle. How does something that small do that much damage in under 15 seconds? That was the question the whole academy would spend the next season trying to answer. Kellith had not been in the room when it happened. She'd only walked into the aftermath, the alarms, the stretchers, the human sitting against a maintenance wall with a wrench still loose in her fingers. And then, later, into the review room where the administrators played the footage on a loop until the 4 eyes in Kellith's skull ached from watching the same 3 seconds over and over. To understand it, you had to go back to before the alarms, back to corridor 12B, dim and humming, where 3 of the academy's most decorated students had cornered a girl a third their size against a maintenance panel. Vex went first, because Vex always went first. 3 meters of Sarian scale and muscle, heir to half the Kepler mining trade, leaning down until his snout hovered a hand's width from her face. "It's almost sweet," he said, "that your kind thinks it belongs here. You people were still rubbing sticks together 20 cycles ago." "Noted," the human said. Her name was Kira Chen, first year, 17 by Earth counting, and her voice had the flat patience of someone doing mental math instead of listening. "I have a lab report due. Can I go?" Thruam clicked his mandibles, Zephyr's laughter, 4 arms crossed over a chitin plate built to shrug off small arms' fire. "A lab report. Adorable. Your species still burns fuel to move a vehicle." "I heard humans eat the flesh of other animals," the crystalline Cora added, her voice like glass tapped with a fingernail. "Actual corpses. Barbaric." Something flickered across Kira's jaw, the first crack in the stillness. "And I heard your people eat radiation for breakfast, but you don't see me making it weird." Vex's tail cracked against the bulkhead. "Watch your tone. You're standing in the finest academy in 11 sectors, surrounded by beings who mastered civilization while your ancestors were still afraid of the dark. Show some respect." "I was respectful," Kira said, "right up until 3 of you decided a hallway was the place to remind me how small I am. So here's a thought move, and we forget this happened." Kellith, watching later on the recording, would notice what nobody in the corridor had: the shift in Kira's weight onto the balls of her feet, the 2-degree change in the set of her shoulders. Not fear, calibration. "We're having a conversation," Vex said. "No one's assaulting anyone." "Funny, that's not what this feels like." Kira's eyes found his. Whatever he saw there, he ignored it. "Last chance, back off." Cora's form rippled, amused. "Or what? You'll cry to the administration. Please, your species is here on a diversity allowance. You have no leverage." "That's not what I meant," Kira said, quiet now. Vex's hand answered instead of his mouth. He seized her jumpsuit and lifted her clean off the deck like she weighed nothing at all. "Listen here, you little—" He never finished it. What happened next took 2.3 seconds, timed later frame by people who needed to believe their eyes had lied to them. Kira's palm snapped upward into the joint of his elbow at an angle no instructor in that academy would have called textbook, and something in his arm gave with a sound like a branch splitting underwater. His grip released. She dropped, rolled her landing, and was already 3 steps back before he finished screaming. "I told you," she said almost gently. "I asked nicely." Thruam came next, 4 arms up, military reflex overriding shock. He hit her like a battering ram built for exactly this. She wasn't there when he arrived. She dropped low, swept his lead legs, and let 300 kilograms of insectoid soldier carry itself face first into the deck plating. Her knee found the soft seam where his thorax met his abdomen before he could gather himself, and the sound he made afterward was not one Kellith had known his species could produce. He twisted anyway, one wild arm catching her across the cheek, 3 lines of blood springing up bright against her skin. She should have staggered. Instead, she smiled, actually smiled, blood running toward her jaw, and said, like she was continuing a conversation over lunch, "Okay, then." Her elbow found the base of his skull next, precisely where the neural cluster sat beneath the plating, and he went down and did not get up. Cora, still frozen mid-flicker, took a wrench meant for air recycler bolts across her structural column and came apart into a spray of glittering fragments across the floor, keening at a pitch that made Keleth's ears ache just hearing it secondhand. Vex tried once more, one arm, teeth bared through the pain. Kira's fingers found his throat, enough to make breathing an effort, not a memory, and her heel found the ligament behind his knee. He went down roaring. She stood over him, breathing hard, blood still tracking down her jaw, and pressed a folded handkerchief to the cut like it was a paper cut and not 4 centimeters deep. When the first officer rounded the corner, weapon half raised, she just lifted the handkerchief in a small salute. "You're going to want the other 3 statements first. Mine's boring." The hearing convened 2 days later in the Grand Assembly Hall, 7 committee members behind a curved bench built to look imposing, the wounded students and their furious families arrayed on one side, Kira alone on the other. She'd refused counsel. The bandage on her cheek had shrunk to 3 dermal patches. Vex's father, scales studded with corporate insignia, was on his feet before the chair had finished the charges. That creature hospitalized 3 students. It should be expelled, prosecuted, even. "Self-defense is not assault," Kira said. It was the committee chair, tentacles coiling with unease, who finally asked the question that mattered, the one nobody else in that hall had thought to ask. "Miss Chen, your world has no interstellar enemies, no history of galactic conflict. Why does a child on your planet learn to do this?" The hall went still enough that Keleth could hear the air recyclers. Kira didn't answer right away. She looked down at her hands first, then back up, and when she spoke her voice had dropped into something Keleth had never heard from her before, not cold, not proud, just very tired and very sure. "Because we don't need alien enemies. We've spent our whole history hurting each other. Every culture on Earth built a way to fight, some of them thousands of years old, and we teach them to our kids because the world is dangerous, and sometimes the danger is wearing a familiar face." Her jaw tightened. "My father put me in a gym that smelled like old sweat when I was 6, because he grew up somewhere girls got hurt for existing, and he decided I wouldn't be one of them. That's not violence. That's the opposite of it." Cora's mother, crystalline and glittering with lineage markings, found her voice first, brittle with grief. "Love does not excuse what my daughter is enduring." Kira turned to face her fully. "Then answer me this. If it were your daughter cornered by 3 bigger, stronger people who grabbed her, would you want her to submit or to walk out standing?" Nobody in that hall answered. The security chief settled it in the end, reading from his own data pad. 7 documented incidents, 2 formal complaints Kira had filed, and the academy had dismissed as minor friction. 6 times she'd walked away before the 7th time she couldn't. Vex, Thruam, and Cora were suspended for a term. Kira received a warning, and nothing more. Self-defense, the chair noted, remained a recognized right under galactic law, whatever anyone's pride had to say about it. The report that had first crossed Keleth's desk, all fractures and reconstitution timelines, was quietly folded into the Academy's new orientation packet, alongside a slide deck on Earth's gravity, its atmosphere, its long list of predators, its wars. Every student, regardless of species or year, sat through 3 hours of it and came out of that room walking a little differently. Keleth found Kira in the refectory, a season later, chemistry textbook propped beside a tray that would have poisoned half the room, working through an equation with the same unhurried patience she'd once used to explain calmly why a jaw shouldn't be underestimated. A first year at the next table watched her from a careful distance, an unfamiliar orange badge pinned crooked on his collar, and said nothing at all. Kira caught Keleth's eye, lifted 2 fingers off the table in a small wave, and bent back over her work. The old data pad's numbers, 3 fractures and a warning, filed away now, never once needed again.